It is now 6:30 p.m. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. All members are present. We'll be moving on to item 2, invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for today, for all the blessings that you continue to provide. Thank you for bringing each of us here tonight. As we move through tonight's meeting, I pray that we seek to receive your guidance for wisdom, understanding, and discernment, to be wise in making decisions for the good of our district, for all that have placed their trust and confidence in each of us as leaders. Grant us ability to always seek your will in everything we do. We pray all this in your mighty name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to item 4, public comment. Do we have any public comments? Okay.
First one is Tiffany.
Tiffany?
Allen.
You can stand over here. And then before we begin, I just have to read this, okay? This section of the meeting is reserved for public participation. Please keep your comments civil and courteous. Please also avoid using profanity and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Finally, we ask that you do not discuss students who are not your own. Any violations of these rules any violation of these rules will cause the board president to stop speaking. Thank you. And you have 3 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I'm here on behalf of my children. I sent them a thing about the meeting and the calendar, and they're like, write a letter, can you send this? Can you tell? Like, okay. So this is coming from the perspective of 16-year-old girls who are currently sophomores going into junior. This is what they wrote, okay? To start off very bluntly, I believe this decision for the school calendar would have many negative impacts on the district. First, I believe this change would greatly impact our high school students the most. They're in high school because it's coming from their perspective from high school. Many of the peers work jobs and work on Fridays that were given off. These Fridays give them more hours to be paid and more time themselves outside of their school and work on. According to schools.texastribune.org, 85% of our students are economically disadvantaged. These extra days can give students the opportunity to earn more money, helping relieve the financial stress from their families. And in the long run, this can help them stay in school as well as graduate. These extra days we have had give them both the time to help support their families, but also relieve the stress and pressure to balance that on top of an education. Outside of working a job, more school days off give students a chance to pursue opportunities outside of school like sports or volunteering. These extra days off also alleviate the stress from many of the extracurricular offers, as it gives them a day to practice that isn't after a long day or in a busy weekend. In the total, these opportunities can help students expand their horizons, build a resume for a future career or college, giving them an experience doing things they enjoy. Increasing the school days and getting rid of no school on Fridays would greatly limit the time they would have to do these activities and limit experiences many have outside of school. At the high school this year, school started days very early when the bell started at 8:15 and ended the last bell at 4:30, over 8 hours of school. Compared to previous school times, many of the peers will tell you they felt especially long. If you walk into many classes, you will see students exhausted and sleeping in classes. For many who do extracurriculars, this day is far longer. Speaking from personal experience, I would wake up at 7, leave my house by 7:45, or arrive at school by 8. For many, this actually starts early. From my house, if we rode the bus, we would get on the bus at 6:30, which my son did do that. So it would wake up early, falling on days, extra traveling home, that just makes it too tired. When they get home, a lot of times they'll just eat, sleep, and go to bed. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. For many, this day actually go. Following the long days of extracurriculars after school, I would come home usually driving in the dark, sometimes going straight to sleep, sometimes I'll just eat, shower, and then go straight to bed. Too tired for the day to do anything else. And I can just begin to understand why in the year 2022 and 23, school year chronic absenteeism rate was 40%. All of these previous is for an average student.
That's the. If you want to leave us a copy, we can read it as well.
Can I meet with you afterwards? Just finish it independently?
Yeah, you can make an appointment, but if you want to leave it, I can forward it to everyone just because you need to finish reading it.
Okay. I have suggestions and stuff also.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Do we have any other?
Public comments? I'm sorry?
Are you going to repeat the rules again?
No, sir. Just as long as we follow them. 3 minutes, and they're yours.
So I want to congratulate the new board member, and I want to thank all of you for serving, because I know sometimes it gets stressful with crowds and wants and et cetera. But I think I did hear, I like the discussion with the superintendent, welcome, last week about the grades. And I guess the question would be, are we a B school, are we an A school, C school, are we a D, are we an F? I'm an old school guy. To me, a D is an F. I think that if you're a D, a realistic goal would be to go for the C, right? And the reason I say that is there's a lot of pain going from one extreme to the other, okay? And I say extreme pain due to the fact that you can only push so hard before the community pushes back. I know that when Dr. Kelly was here and I pushed for more academics, the community pushed back, saying, pobrecito mi hijo, you know, estudia todo el día, you don't have time for this, blah, 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 you're getting stressed out, etc. So the question would be, what's our goal? Is it a B or is it a C? And I think you need to ask the superintendent that question. What resources is it going to take to get to that level? Is it, I mean, I know that teachers are going to get more money, but so is everybody else. What is it that you're going to do resource-wise to achieve that? Is it going to, and I think you agree with the Facebook position, Matt, is that I get to think that if you want to succeed, you need to put more time into the books. You can't just learn by osmosis. You have to study to attain that. I know that when I went for my engineering degree at A&M, I was very disappointed with Pearsall. Because I said, you know what? I took all the classes I needed, and now I go to A&I, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough because the bar was too low at PISD. So what it meant is all those kids have to study harder when they go to university, and you'll find that the success rate for university graduates is pathetic. It's probably 5%. So the question is, where do you want to be, and how much are you going to spend? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to, oh, sorry. Is there anybody else? Thank you. Is this right? The minutes? Okay. Moving on to item 5, informational items. Item 6, approve and or correct minutes from previous board meetings, March 6th, April 7th, April 16th, May 14th, and May 19th. Okay, and you have all those meeting minutes in your board packet. Does anyone have any corrections or questions that need to be asked or made? And if not, can I get a motion? You can abstain for that reason. Perfect. Just whenever we make the motion, just say you abstain.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for meetings of March 6th, April 7th, April 16th, May 14th, May 19th meetings as presented.
Have a motion by Lionel Gondeta. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Marco Reyes. All in favor? Okay, all opposed? And any abstaining? One abstain. So we have just Adrian and Dora abstaining. Everyone else approved. Motion passes. Moving on to the consent agenda, item 7A, financial information.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
On page 22, you will find the exhibit C3, which is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for governmental funds for the month ended May 31st, 2025. For our general fund, our total revenues were $24,346,296. Total expenditures were $21,527,426, with the excess of revenues of $2,818,870, bringing the year-to-date fund balance to $35,607,371. For our food service fund, total revenues were $1,435,532. Total expenditures were $1,573,939, with the deficiency of revenues of $138,407. The year-to-date fund balance was $1,032,853. For our debt service fund, total revenues were $3,228,204. Total expenditures were $260,525, with the excess of revenues of $2,967,679. The year-to-date fund balance was $4,246,385. For the next report, you'll find on page 50 the scheduled general fund certificates of deposit. Amounts invested this month were $33,500,000. Interest accrued at the end of the month was $122,335.34. Total value at the end of the month was $33,622,335.34. On page 52 is a schedule of INS certificates of deposit. Amounts invested this month were $2,888,117.54. Interest accrued at the end of this month were $10,409.56. The total value at the end of the month of $2,898,527.10. On page 54 is the general fund investment in the Lone Star Investment Pool. Interest earned for May was $4,248.35. Total interest earned was $39,207.88. And total investment plus year-to-date interest earned $1,130,925.34.
Does anyone have any questions for Lisa?
I do. I wanted to check on page 24 for, I don't want to say who it was issued out to, but I believe the union was for 2001 freight line. What is that about?
Oh, that is the 2001 Freightliner, the rig, the we used to use for the bag, you know, that big trailer rig. They are working on it so that the CDL class can actually use that truck in the future to drive instead of using it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question? Any other questions? If there are no further questions, can I get a motion to this item?
So moved.
I have a motion by Marco Reyes. Can I get a second? Second by Lonnie Benavides. All in favor? Unanimous. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8A, updates and findings by MTR Engineering.
Yes, Mr. Board President, we have with us this evening Leroy San Miguel from LRSM Consulting and Ron Ramirez from MTR Engineering to give an update and some observations on our track field. So we have some handouts for us which are reflected in these screens for the audience.
Good evening, board members and thank you so much for allowing us an opportunity to share some observations and some recommendations for you regarding your existing track and field. And we'll be covering at least 5 topics. We'll try to make it short and sweet, to the point, and because we went on under time, obviously. We'll make an introduction, some background information, a short-term plan and a long-term plan. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we believe the next steps should be. As Dr. Ford introduced me, my name is Leroy San Miguel. I'm happy to be retired administrator from a very large school district, not too far from here. 34 years of doing facilities and operations and various other school districts as well. So I am excited about the opportunity to be here in front of you and helping you any way that I possibly can to make life a little bit easier, but certainly get those facilities where they need to be in the best environment for our kids. With me is Ron Ramirez. He's MTR. He's the actual R on the MTR, just so you'll know. He's an engineer, and he'll introduce himself.
Yes, my name is Ron Ramirez, like you said. I'm a principal, one of the managing partners at MTR Engineers. I've been doing this for, feels like too long, you know, upwards of 32, 33 years. So this gray was earned. It wasn't, you know, hereditary. Ben Powell is one of our project managers who couldn't be here tonight, but he's been working on this project and doing the assessments with me out here. And what we do civil engineering and survey. And I'd like to say that one of our specialties is public ISD work. You know, we've been working with public school districts in and around San Antonio, basically all Central and South Texas for, well, the entirety of my career. You know, we're currently working for upwards of 15 to 16 different school districts right now. So one of the things about, you know, my company is that we're all design engineers from the top to the bottom. I mean, we stay in the projects, you know, which is why I'm here, you know, addressing some of the needs because I was, you know, the first one that came out here. And I'd like to talk to you about, you know, briefly why we were contacted to begin with, you know, what the initial, I guess, issues were that were brought up by the city of Pearsall, and then how we got from there to where we're at now and what we're recommending, how we're recommending we move forward. So we got a call we got an email in January because the city of Pearsall was meeting with members of the school district and telling them that there's an encroachment in the, you know, behind the football field, behind the track. And the encroachment was with drainage facilities. You have some drainage pipes that are outfalling back there. And there is, I'm sure some of you have seen it, they redid the track, you know, a while back. They leveled it out, and they didn't put any retaining wall back there. It's just a vertical cut. Your fence is falling down. There's some pipes, and there's some small wall to block the drainage that they built in city right-of-way. It wasn't engineered. Nothing has approved plans. So the city wanted this issue resolved. So we were called out to look at it. We met out here. I brought one of my project managers, and we met out here, and we met with a representative here from Pearsall ISD and also with a representative from the city of Pearsall, so that we could see what the issues were and how we could go about helping the school district try and resolve this. So when we met out here and we looked at the situation, it was pretty obvious what the issues were. This track, when it was redone, comes to within a foot, actually a little more than a foot from the property line. One of the things about public school districts, and the property you own, is you're allowed to build within your property. You can't build into somebody else's property, and that goes for just about anybody. You are allowed to build drainage structures in public right-of-way when you're draining into them, but these drainage structures have to be engineered, they have to be permitted, they have to be approved by the governing jurisdiction. It has to be engineered in a manner that follows current, code compliance, ordinances, drainage ordinances. Nothing like that was done. Obviously, we just have some encroachment issues and drainage coming right out there. So what we did was we said, okay, there's a fix to this. We are going to have to build a retaining wall back there. Number one, when you build a track, and this is something we've done a lot of. We've been doing these projects, like I said, for 30-something years. We have, we've done hundreds of school projects, especially athletics. That's one of our specialties. When you build a track like this, a synthetic turf competition-grade track, and it was built by Hellas, who does a really good job with the track improvements. One of the things is you need a 5-foot over. If you're not going to put a retaining wall, you need a 5-foot overbuild on this track. And you're built to within a foot of the property line. So what you have right now is an unreinforced vertical earthen cut that eventually is going to undermine the end of that track. In other words, with rains, it's going to come out. You're going to find that track at the back is going to start cracking. We've seen this before, but it is a real nice track. It was graded correctly. It's a competition grade track, a 7-lane track, and they were in the process of resurfacing it. I'm sure you all know it's been resurfaced recently. They finished before track season. So what we need to do, we did what's it gonna take to resolve this issue? This is the outfall that's right outside the track, out there at the end. What you have is these drainage improvements, all the drainage coming out from inside the field. There's 2 18-inch pipes that come out back here, and then they built a wall to block the drainage from from shooting across the alley. And there's houses back there, and people access their driveways back there. So that it could turn the water, and then I guess the city built just a little drainage ditch just to keep the water away from the drivable area. What we need to do right now, the fence is falling down. That chain link is the only thing holding the dirt back. So what we did was, we took all the facts that are in place. We got with the city of Pearsall and said, okay, what are your drainage requirements back there? They're still assessing that. They haven't gotten back to us. They didn't have any written drainage ordinances or code requirements. They use an outside engineering firm, Yount Engineering, to do their drainage assessments. So we're still waiting to hear back on what they're going to require. But what we did move forward and do was we went forward and did an agreement so that we could survey an area big enough to be able to address this issue, to assess the drainage, the fencing, the retaining wall that would have to be built, and how we would need to go about doing it. And but what we did was localized. It was localized to the end of the track, and it was a conceptual design. When we did this conceptual design, we forwarded it to the city of Pearsall and said, we are addressing the problems that the school district has on their side of the property line. You haven't told us what you want on your side. So for now, in order for us to move forward, we're going to address what the school district needs to address to resolve this issue with the improvements that need to be built on their property. You know, until we hear from you, that's what we're moving forward with. We gave them a copy of the drawing. They forwarded it to their engineers. And it's apparently been in review for a while now, but we haven't heard anything from them. So it involves three things. It involves drainage, it involves fixing that encroachment, and it involves, the third part of what involves is the demolition and reconstruction and the building of that structural wall. What we're looking, a conceptual is this. You know, right now, you see those, I don't know if anybody has a little laser thingy here, but if you,
The laser. Center.
there you go.
There you go.
Okay. What, the red is your property line. That big, thick red line back there, that's your property line. Your existing track is built to within a foot of your property line. There isn't a way to build a conventional cantilevered retaining wall. That means that it has a footing that goes both ways because you want to try and stay within your property. So what we designed was, or what we're recommending, is a retaining wall basically from this point to this point. And you see that dashed line right there? That's a footing for that retaining wall. Now that's going to come in, it's an L-shaped footing that comes into your property. It's going to come in under that track. So basically you need to excavate 5 feet beyond that. There's a portion of this track that's going to have to be demolitioned. Now when you demolition a track, you always want to go perpendicular to the running lanes and pick a place and demolition that. So what we want to do is we want to tear this out. We want to take out these drainage pipes that are currently coming out from under the field and outfalling there. We want to take out a portion of the back of this synthetic turf field, put in a junction box to intercept the drainage, and then take the drainage out onto your property, not release it directly into the city property. That'll solve your hardscape encroachment issues. Then we can do little earthen channel to take it out and tie it in a little bit further downstream. It still needs to go into that alley, but it just can't shoot out directly with your hardscape improvements out here. Now, this is what we have proposed, and then along with that, once this wall is built, we would need to replace that chain link fencing with new, but I've been told you have a security fencing project coming. I said, so that would fit into this well, because at some point when the wall starts, the fencing would get sleeved into the top of the wall, run on top of the wall, and then keep running down the property line. So what I want to say is that this is a fix for this particular issue that got brought up. It's conceptual. We would still need to do, you know, the actual signed and sealed construction plans, drainage calculations, and the like, but it's very doable. Now, this section of the track would have to get cut out and reconstructed. This section of that synthetic turf field would have to be cut out to make room for the installation of these drainage improvements and then get reconstructed. You know, so you get your field back, you get your track back, but it's not there's really no way to fix this without addressing these issues, and you're built up so close to the property line that there's no room to do it without removing and replacing some of these improvements. And I know you just overlaid that track, but it was an overlay. It was a resurfacing. It wasn't a full depth construction. That had already happened before. And you guys, feel free to stop me. You know, throw something at me, ask a question, whatever you want to do. I mean, if I'm not being clear.
The other button right here will advance the slide.
Oh, okay.
This work that was done here, I think was done around 97.
It was done that long ago?
And it was done by an engineer. I just can't believe there weren't any drawings. He used to work for the county. And
Okay.
He did all the work for the school district, and then the work was done, right? So this was back in 97. So that's why you see a lot of, I mean, when it was before it was done, it was, you know, it didn't have the engineering on it.
Well, this unsupported portion of the track right here, you know, we've seen this, we've seen this before. There isn't much we haven't seen before. You know, you will start getting, especially with rains, you will start seeing that soil come out and undermine that end of the track. when you get into athletics, when you build a building foundation, you have the soils tested, because soils in different areas have different expansiveness. You might get some very expansive soils. I'm sure you all have seen, you're driving into parking lots and the parking lots the asphalt is waving or it's cracking or there's potholes developing. You've walked over sidewalks that are heaving and broken. Same thing with building foundations. What you end up, nowadays what we do is we get a geotech report done. They do a soil analysis and say, okay, this soil has this level of expansiveness. So this is what we need to do for the foundation, for the section when we build an asphalt to make it heavy duty enough. It's designed for these soils on your site. Okay, the same has to be done for a track, and a field, just like you would a building foundation. When you're getting to sports, tracks and tennis courts, those two items have the biggest liability. They need to have the best section you can put under them because they're more subject to cracking. Tennis courts are very brittle. They'll crack very easily. Tracks will crack. Tracks will move. They will. So those two items, you got to be real careful with, when you design them nowadays, because you want to design them to last. You want to design them with a section that fits the soil so that, you're coming back every 8 years and you're just resurfacing. You don't have to fix anything to any significant depth. You're just saying, okay, I've worn out the surface of this track, the foundation's good, scrape off this top surface, put on a new surface, and we go another 8 years. That's, so one of the things we want to do out here, this conceptual design should fix this problem and should fix as far as the support for the end of your track that's not there right now. And then we could outflow this way. You can go forward with this project and fix the issue, but we still haven't heard from the city whether they're going to require additional drainage improvements here. Now, this can be fixed without waiting for them. I'm sure they're going to approve this. If they come back with additional requirements that they want, well, we could negotiate that with them at that time and see how we can do this. Now, what we went out here and did was what we were, called out here to address. But in walking this site, we could very clearly see that you all have a couple of bigger issues, and I don't know if you want to address these or not. I've been told that yes, you want to address some of these bigger issues, but some of the things we're seeing just from walking the site is that when they leveled this track, at one point your track and your field were sloping from the building side back to the right-of-way, and they were probably sloping together. Everything was built from the high point to the low point, dropped about 2 feet or so that everything drained out there. One of the things about a competition grade track, and a field for that matter, is when you build a competition grade track, it is flat from one end of the field to the other. It's the same elevation. So the outside of the track all the way around is the same elevation, and then the inside of the track, it's cross sloped to the inside. So you can be standing right here on this end of the track and be standing at the opposite corner at the other side, and you're on exactly the same elevation. So when they came in, this was the low side. When they came in and did this, and this is your track. When they came in and did this, what they did was they held this elevation and they leveled the track all the way out to make it a competition grade track. But they did not do that with a field. Okay, the field has the same, if you want to do a competition grade field, it also has to be flat. From one end of the field, from the back of the end zone here to the back of the end zone there, it needs to be completely flat. And then you've seen these football fields, they're crowned in the middle and they drain to the sides. So you can be standing on this end zone and on this end zone and you're on the same elevation. Right now, this field slopes down 2 feet. So what they did was they leveled out the track, which is why it's up in the air over here, and they kept the field at the same elevation. So you don't have a competition grade field. It wasn't leveled when they leveled the track. It's a nice synthetic turf field, pretty field, very playable, but it's not at competition grades. you know, which I assume that's eventually what you're gonna want. One of the things about addressing this small project back here is that it can be classified as a maintenance type project, which means that nothing else comes into it. Usually when you do a project, you're a public school district, you have, if the project has a construction cost over $50,000 and it's a, you know, a public access area, you need to comply with ADA requirements, no matter what those may be. If you classify it as a maintenance project, well, you can forego that because that doesn't have anything to do with public access, you know, and here we're fixing the drainage and we're putting what's there back. So that's considered a maintenance project. If you wanted to go forward and fix that field, you know, now you're looking at a project that's going to bring in other code compliant issues. Okay, it's gonna bring in handicap parking. It's going to bring in accessibility.
To see what complies and what doesn't. And then we would have to, and then there's some ponding problems out here also, and I'm sure you all know about some of the drainage problems you have out here. Usually when we do a partial fix like this, what we like to recommend, when you patch, when you hit a project and you fix this area, and then something else comes up and you fix this area, you fix this area, and you don't take a holistic approach, you know, then a lot of times what you just did and paid for, you might be tearing out a year or two from now because you need to look at a bigger picture. What we would recommend, which we have now, and I know I think it's already been approved, is that that's, you know, you're gonna want this stadium, you're gonna want it code compliant in every way. You're gonna want your ADA accessibility and code issues, you're gonna want your drainage issues fixed, you're gonna want eventually a competition grade field just to match your competition grade track. You wanna have UIL games out here for football, for soccer. So what we propose to do, just to make it clear, is that if we can survey this, survey the remainder of the area that we feel is going to be, we need to assess along with these future improvements, and say, okay, eventually, and then we do a geotech analysis of the soils out there so that we know what kind of sections we're dealing with, so that when we do design something, when we do put in something in the future, it's designed for this area, address the drainage issues, address any ADA deficiencies, and anything else you might want to do. You know, put a scoreboard up there. If we can do a holistic conceptual design on this and what's going to be required, then if you only have the money to do a portion of it, we can help you phase it. We can say, okay, we're doing this, but now we're doing this in a manner that you're not going to come back with your next project and have to take this out because you're looking at a bigger picture. We have the bigger picture. Now you can do this portion of it and say, okay, the next project I do is going to tie to this. You know, I'm not wasting my money here, or I'm not putting my money towards something temporary without looking at the big picture. I'm constructing this in a manner that, okay, when I go to the next phase, it's going to tie right to this, you know, and you can approach, you know, approach this whole, all the improvements related to this football field, you know, in a logical way, in an informed way, where you have all the survey done, you have all the soil research done, you've consulted with an ADA reviewer for all the code deficiencies out here, and then we can work with you to give you a working plan moving forward. This is the bigger picture. This is that isolated fix that we can go forward and, you know, pull the trigger on now if we do some of this research, we'll make sure that whatever we do here is modified in a manner that, you know, we can tie into it and not go forward. Let me see, we have, well, first of all, like I said, competition grade football field drainage issues, ADA improvements, to include all the ADA improvements that we just talked about.
Does anybody know what the ADA stands for? Americans with Disabilities Act. On the facility side, it's something that needs to be sent to the state for review, commentary before you start construction. And then it's submitted back, and then after we finish, there will be a specialist that comes after to check to make sure everything was done right, and they have to certify the engineer.
So, you know, when we design, if we have the right information up front, survey, you know, we design all these ADA improvements, you know, we have, you know, that's one of the things we do is we do all types of site work, and everything we design has to be code compliant. You know, and then we would send it in, it would get registered with TDLR, which is the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. They govern they're based out of Austin, and they govern ADA requirements for all developments, all public developments. So our plans would be submitted to them for review. You know, they would review and approve before these plans ever went out to bid. And then they have what's called a registered accessibility specialist, a person that's registered with TDLR to come out and check after construction is done to make sure everything was done correctly. So there's, you know, there's a lot of boxes to check. It's not overly difficult, you know, to do. You just gotta know what to do, when to do it, and who to engage to get what you need done.
I just have a question on your redesign of the track, you make it 8 lanes?
Typical track is 8 lanes. That's not to say you can't have a 7-lane track. It's competition grade. You can have, you know.
When we do the survey,
It depends on.
we'll be able to see how much, because it's a width thing.
Yeah, it's a width.
And they're turning radiuses that, or UAL, stuff like that. And there's probably a reason why the 7 lane went in there, because you don't, if you try to push it too far out, you're getting the buildings or you're crunching it in. So when we do the survey, we'll be able to share that with you, what our findings are.
And there's some things you can't have, and there's some things you can't have on a 7-lane track. I can tell you that Bernie High School, Bernie High School has a 7-lane track too. They have a problem with the width, with the encroachment of the bleachers, you know, on there, so we couldn't expand it. The thing about expanding the track is that the inside of the track, that length, 8 inches inside the first lane, you draw a measuring line. That measuring line has to be exactly 400 meters. So when you expand the track, like this is a 400-meter track, and we've already checked it, along the measuring line in here, it's measured correctly. You have so when you add a lane, you need to add it to the outside. So it's going to make this track wider. So what we would need to check with the survey and walking it is how much room do you have between the track and those existing bleachers? You know, which is where, you know, and that we can do. In other words, we can assess it for the possible addition of a lane, but that's going to be your, that's what that's what's going to limit you, if anything does limit you to adding that extra lane. Okay. Any questions? Did I run too fast, or way too anything? I think we're fine there.
I have a question, sir. On the drainage, moving the drainage. When's the last time y'all heard from the city of Pearsall?
We have given them the conceptual design. They sent us an email that they had forwarded it to their engineers for review, and that they were going to get back to us with comments. Might have been 6 or 8 weeks ago. We followed up twice with them and haven't gotten a response. But, I mean, I'm sure it's still under review. We're just waiting to hear from them.
And we will follow up with the city, obviously. We want to make sure that.
Yeah, Mr. Diaz is here.
How are y'all? Oh, you see you.
Sorry, Fred.
But you put me on the spot, I'm telling you. I will have a response to you by next week.
They did respond to us right away. They did tell us that they forwarded it to their engineers and who their engineers were, and that they would get back to us as soon as they got it reviewed.
That was my sincere. So, to speak to that is, again, on our end, we'll have a response to you guys. And we shouldn't have taken this long to at least speak about conceptual plans. In retrospect, just so you guys are aware, as far as the city's involvement, that whenever this happened, or the fence, the actual fence was coming up, there was a question or stuff was, I think the contractor was going to come and put up a concrete barrier. It was one city district, Vegas, that the school district was looking to hire, and they were asking the city to permit it. So we went out there and looked at it. I mean, to your point, I mean, there was not much holding that to keep that up. So that's how a lot of this came up. And we don't, on our end, I didn't feel comfortable permitting anything. I think it's going to be an issue for you guys as far as the school. So anyway, but we will get your response to your conceptual.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And now knowing that, how quick can we start on our end?
Good question.
And if, do we have the acquired permits that?
Permits come after we do construction plans and sign and seal them. Then we'll submit the set to the city of Pearsall for permitting. Right now we're in a, I guess, feasibility and assessment and a conceptual schematic saying this is how we intend to resolve this issue. We have not gotten to, okay, let's start the construction drawings.
So I'm going to touch on that at the very end, which are the next steps, and hopefully that will answer your question. If not, please let us know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, we were just approved. We did get a little bit of a jump with scheduling the survey. I'm sorry. Trying to figure this out. Oh, okay. That's me and technology. Engineers. My younger guys are smarter than I am. Yeah. Thank you. So we do have the survey scheduled. We do have a RAS, which is a registered accessibility specialist on retainer right now that's going to come walk this with us and I'll do the assessment. We did call the geotech engineer. He's ready to mobilize and come out here and start doing the borings, and I think we just got cleared for doing that as of today, so we can get that going as soon as I get back to the office. But we got to get some of that information done, this field study done, to make sure that the construction plans we have are viable for moving forward. If we're only going to do that portion of it for what you want to do in the future. That slide is you, bro.
All right, so I'm going to close. I opened and now I close. Right? I'm gonna close. So what we'd like to do, you've heard a lot. You've probably heard more about engineering. Of course, my engineer friend over here does a great job of explaining everything in detail. And so you kind of heard a lot of...
No such thing as too much engineering,
So from that perspective, we would like to come back to the board here within 30 days to share with you what the final findings are after, because you saw everything's in progress, right? The soils analysis, the survey work, the RAS, the individual that does the reviews for ADA compliance, to give us all that information. Then we can give you more of a presentation on this is what our findings are. And then right after that, we're prepared to say, these are our recommendations as we start moving forward. Now remember, all of this, what we're talking about is feasibilities. We haven't drawn anything other than the sketches to, share with the city to see what their thoughts are about compliance with city codes and ordinances and things of that nature. So we'll be back and we will provide you the detailed impacts. We'll provide you everything that we gathered, and then we're going to put some cost estimates to give you some ranges so you can start looking at a menu of things that you may want to consider as you move forward. Right? We recognize that the priority is fix what you got, and that we'll give you that information as well. And then we want to finalize any other requirements of the city. So when we get back, probably within about a month or so, we'll come back to you and give you all that information. Then the next steps is either hiring MTR to be able to finalize the packages, in other words, do the drawings and specifications. Now, that takes some time, obviously. They need, 60 days, 90 days to finish those drawings. It depends how extensive they are, really. And so that means that we're gonna go well into the end of the year. I think that's where you're going. How far and how long is it gonna take to get this whole process? So it's conceivable that we're in the middle to the tail end of football season. And we're gonna develop some plans so that we can keep the field operational and share those with you the next time that we meet, because we're gonna think it all the way through from beginning to end. So that's kind of what the next steps and the final pieces are for our proposal moving forward. We'll entertain any questions you may have.
So what we're approving today is the additional work that you're already doing for the football field?
You will see on the agenda, so the MTR has been already approved to do some of the work.
Yes.
It exceeds your maximum allowances by rule, by your work policies. And so what you'll see here next is, before we talk about it, is the approval of the contract to exceed that maximum amount.
It's the survey, the geotech, and the ADA assessment, everything we need, all the information we need to gather to do a conceptual design for you and an informed cost estimates from moving forward. That's what we're proposing.
On the readjusting the drainage more to your northwest side of it.
Right.
Are you going to be adjusting it all the way to the alleyway or to where they're?
We're going to be adjusting it all the way to the alleyway. What we did show on this conceptual. This thing doesn't work for me.
So I guess my question is if it's going to be adjusted all the way to the alleyway, that one drainage area we got on the back side of the home side, which is the west side, you know, we do have a little runoff area, and then of course it goes to the junior high. We got concrete drainage there.
Yes,
is that purposeful or?
You have, you know, upstream. Okay, this we're gonna release onto your property. We're not gonna release directly into right of way. So we can take out these improvements. From here, we're proposing an earthen channel just to tie in earthen lines to the grading. Okay, that's what we're proposing here. You have other issues out here. You have, that's what we're waiting for the city to come back with their, to give us some commentary, because what you have a culvert, you have a drainage channel that comes back here, which is on school district property. All of your drainage at the back of the school drains to the back. You know, and this drainage channel comes to a culvert right here. And this culvert releases drainage, and that's where they dug that little ditch right along here. And then it comes all the way to another culvert that's underneath here. You know, and you have very minimal drop from here to here. So I don't, once the city looks at this, I don't know what they're gonna come back with. That's why I said, you know, it'll give us, once we get their thoughts on their drainage system back here, which they really don't have one. Not in the public right of way, because there's a channel here, but it's on school district property. Once we get their thoughts and how big a picture they're gonna look at with regards to their drainage and get some direction from them, then we'll have something to start talking to them about. Because you're gonna wanna mitigate, I mean, these are improvements in city right of way. You're gonna wanna mitigate what you're responsible for, what you might need to put into this, and that's gonna take a little bit of time to work that out with them, depending on what they come back with.
I saw Mr. Reyes just leave, but I didn't know he was back there. But I know a couple of days ago they did the drainage from the water tower, you know, so, you know, I don't know if they were trying to maybe get some kind of reading off the flow going through there, because, you know, the water tower actually drains through that culvert area, that drainage on that alleyway. So I don't know how much water flow they wanted to see, and if they would do something at that time, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But unless they were doing their integral drainage.
We'll ask those questions when we meet with them to see if there's anything else. I mean, you know, we're doing a plan to look at the entire stadium, right? And so part of it is also looking at the drainage, because like Ron says, we're responsible for ensuring that we don't create a lot of problems going outside of our district property.
Exactly. Anything we do here, we need to minimize, we need to completely mitigate any impacts it might have on that public right of way or the neighbors. You know, we need to make sure.
And I'm glad.
It's better than it is when we finish than what it is now.
Yes, sir. And I'm glad actually y'all are here, I mean, you know, because 2 years ago, you know, 3 years ago, we actually redid the football field, resurfaced, I mean, you know, turf, and then just this past spring, we did this spring we did the track, which is a year apart from each other. And we were actually, during our budget workshop early on, this past 2024, you know, we were trying to figure out about lifting the field, make it a competitive field. Brought in Hellas, you know, couldn't get much, you know, I'll be, you know, just gonna say it, you know, I guess the missing point we had was not having y'all here to where it could lead us in that right direction, you know, and
We do a lot of work with all the sports builders. I called Santos, he's the regional vice president for Hellas. You know, asked him what was going on with this, he's looking. I said, do you have any as-built plans? No, he wasn't at the time they built this, but he's looking for me right now to be able to get us whatever plans that this track and field were based on. You know, so that we at least have a starting point to know.
Yeah, we know we have issues with ADA, the stands, you know, I mean, I know we can probably do away with a couple of front stands, like Mr. A is saying, you know, we're trying to look for the 8 lanes, you know, and I even thought maybe the inside, make it the inside lane, but you just meant, you know, you said you measured 400 meters, which is your actual lane, you know, so.
Yeah, that's always been the problem with, you know, with tracks is that, you know, you don't build enough lanes. You know, you want to make sure a 400-meter track, you always have to expand to the outside because the inside measurement is what has to measure the 400 meters.
And you mentioned soccer, you know, I mean, band as well, competitions, you know, because soccer, you know, I mean, if we're going to have a field for another 8 years, I mean, we're looking at sending them, I know it's a long conversation, but, you know, we can't afford to keep sending them out of town, you know, to where they can play on a competitive field.
Right, so most of these fields are now becoming what we call multi-purpose. Used to be in my day, football field, right?
Yeah.
So you have soccer, you have ROTC, and you have a multi different.
Yeah, you got all these programs.
So it's a good more of a multi-field thing. So we'll share our findings to that.
Thank you.
To bring it to that level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and just so, I'm sorry, just so you know, we are looking at the football field, the track, and all the improvements related to that. You know, we're not getting into the baseball field or any other fields. You know, that's, in case you're wondering, because they might have some of the same accessibility issues, you know, down the line, that you might want to look at. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll be moving on to action items. This item 9A, discuss and consider approval of purchase order for
MTR Engineering LLC.
Mr. President, you can see in your board packet, you've got included a letter from Mr. Ramirez letting you know what project fees would be included in this. This is a PO over $25,000, would be for $34,150, including civil assessment fee, geotech fee, RAS fee, and the survey fees. And that would start this process of evaluating the next steps for the work to be done for the repairs, in addition to the bigger picture survey.
Awesome. Does anyone, sorry?
Pages 56 and 57.
That's okay, but what's the amount?
$1,150.
I'm good with that.
So I'll just give a moment for y'all to read it real fast.
Thank you. Don't want to see it? Good.
Okay. else have any questions on this item? And if not, can I get a motion?
So I move that the Board of Trustees approve the purchase order for MTR Engineering.
Okay, have a motion by Dora Mata Rodriguez. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Lionel Gondara. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item 9B, discussion and consider approval of donations from Golden Chick.
On page 59, we're recommending your approval for the donations as presented below. Both donations were from Golden Chick to our Ted Flores Elementary and Intermediate schools.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on this item?
Sure.
Alrighty, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the donations from Golden Chick as presented.
I have a motion by Lionel Gondara. Can I have a second? Second by Diana Hughes. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving on to
Thank you.
item 9C, Region 20 for Purchasing Cooperative Membership Interlocal Agreement for 25-26 school year.
On page 61 is the Region 18 Education Service Center Purchasing Co-op Membership Interlocal Agreement for 25-26 school year. This is an annual agreement that the district has participated for multiple years. The fee is $990, and this is so that our schools can use their vendors that have gone through procurement process.
We do this every year, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions? If not,
Am I reading this
Sorry.
correct? On the page it says, Region 18, and we're talking about Region 20.
No, it's,
Or is that something,
it's Region 18, sir.
Region 18? Okay, I just see that,
it's 20 on the agenda.
yeah, on the agenda's got 20.
I don't have that. You're correct. It's a typo. It's Region 18.
So I'll make a motion to amend the agenda wording to read Region 20 Purchasing Cooperative Membership Interlocal Agreement for 2025-2026. I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
Region 20, 18.
So to
Region
just,
18.
just to modify the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. I have a motion by Lionel to modify the agenda to read Region 18 and the rest of the item here. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dora. All in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. So now that item reads Region 18 Purchasing Cooperative Membership Interlocal Agreement for the 25-26 school year. And then, does anyone else have any questions on this agenda item? If not, can I get a motion to approve the purchasing agreement, interlocal agreement?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Have a motion by Lionel Gondara to approve the purchasing cooperative agreement. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Marco Reyes. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9D, discussion and consider approval, discussion and consider approval on bank signatures of superintendent and school board president.
So because we have a new board president and a new superintendent, we need to add the new names to the Security Bank State signing agreement. So we need to add Matthew Aguilar as board president, Marisela Benavides as board secretary, and Jody Spore as superintendent, and new bank signers for the district.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions? If not, can I get a motion?
So move.
I have a motion by Marco Reyes. Can I have a second? Second, Diana Hughes. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item 9E, discussion and consider approval of instructional materials and implementation coaching.
We have Mr. Jason Rochester who can come up and answer any questions you may have. He's prepared this information for us, and we are recommending approval of these quotes for the instructional materials and professional learning services designed to improve academic performance for our students.
Yes, sir. You just repeat questions?
Yes, if you have any questions. Our big focus this year is on literacy and numeracy, and so we're bringing in a proven high-quality phonics program and as well a math program that will be aligned from kindergarten all the way through Algebra 1. So it's all designed to work together, and this was brought in and presentations made to the principals, and they had a chance to see what we're talking about, and we had their support in this, and so that's what we're bringing to you. And it's not just the materials, but it's the coaching that's going to be with this, so that we're not just saying here's a new resource for the teachers, but actually how to help the teachers use it, and then coaching alongside them so that as they're in the classroom with the materials and the kids, that we have somebody there to help them as they're learning this new material. This is aligned to some of the new state requirements for reading. The state changed the way that we teach reading several years ago, and some of our instructional materials still haven't caught up with that, and that's due to the cycle that the state has for instructional material review. So we're bringing these in as a supplemental, and the same thing with the math. So this is something that, again, it's going to start with kindergartners all the way up through Algebra 1 aligned, so that, again, the students are going to get a much better experience, and it's also going to help the teachers learn these new standards that have come out, the new way the students are tested, and the coaching is going to help the teachers really get a deep understanding of these standards, how they're taught, how they're tested by the state, and what it looks like when students are successful with these.
If we purchase, how long will it take for it to get here, and how long will it take for it to be implemented?
So we already have plans for them to be here in July, that first week that we come back with teachers, and that's just the first day. So they're going to be implementing throughout the year. So for example, math, it's every 6 weeks. They get the new, here's what we're going to cover this next 6 weeks, and they work with the teachers on, here's what you're going to be covering the 6 weeks instead of in July. Remember what you did in July and March. It's going to be every 6 weeks. They're going to come in and help them with the math. And same thing with the phonics. They're going to be there all year long to help with the implementation of that. But we're prepared to start day one with the teachers and the kiddos. Yes, ma'am. We're not going to be waiting in September that things come in. No, they would be here in time for school. Yes, ma'am.
So I just want clarification on the Sharon Wells mathematics curriculum, to be specific. Those would particularly be for up to grade 5. So it would start with grade 2 to grade 5, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so all of that would basically build towards algebra readiness?
So we have, it's 3 different companies that dovetail, and they're all designed to go together. So Sharon Wells is what started the phenomenon. They've been around for quite a while, been very successful. Pearlized Math came alongside and said, well, what are we doing with kindergartners and first graders to get them ready? And then somebody said, well, you know what are we doing with 6th grade through Algebra 1? We can't just stop at 5th grade. So it's designed to, that is the showcase piece, if you will, and what started it all. But we have the program that starts before it, Pearlized, and then the piece that's going to pick it up 6th grade through. Because as you know, we have a requirement of the state. If our students test well in 5th grade, they're required to have some advanced 6th grade, and we're required to have advanced in 7th grade. I would love to eventually see our Algebra 1 move down into 8th grade. We've seen it done in other places where it's really good. If we've got some kids who are able to do it, we want to make sure that we're advancing the students. So these programs will allow for us to advance students. It's not designed just to get them to pass. It's designed to help them be prepared to be on grade level, very successful early on, so that we are getting them through Algebra 1 successful, and then able to go on and take advanced mathematics and participate fully in early college, high school when they get there. But yes, it's an aligned program, so it'll be aligned K through Algebra 1 through the 9th grade.
But still the same curriculum, like under, what exactly specifically would you use for 6 through Algebra 1?
So we may not have brought it this time because it's
Are you talking about the Educate with Walk with Purpose?
There you go, Walk with Purpose is the name of it. Walk with Purpose is the name of it. So what we're trying to do is get everything to you as quickly as we can, and some of these contracts we're still working on. So we're bringing you part of it, just so Walk with Purpose is what picks us from 7th grade through Algebra 1, and that is fully aligned to the Sharon Wells piece. So and again, you can see like the phonics is gonna align all the way through from kinder all the way up through 5th grade where we need it. But yes, those, we will still be bringing you more. We'll have the Region 20 contracts and things to come next month, so we'll add in the Walk with Purpose on there as well.
Okay. And I have one last question.
Yes, ma'am.
So for 8th grade and Algebra 1, as not only are they getting the supplemental resources, but is that going to include coaching with the graphing calculators?
Yes.
So then we just need to look at the cost.
Yes, and we will be bringing you this after, when we hit the budget workshop coming up in August, then we'll be talking about also the Chromebooks and laptops for students, especially if we've got students going into early college, high school, they're gonna need some more support that way, and again with the calculators, the other pieces that kids need, and making sure that we have enough of those to go around for everybody.
And defenders, they're on the approved list as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the funding for these is just a variety of federal and local?
Correct. We're pulling where we can from federal, simply because that's one of those we can roll. However, because some of this is supplemental to the main piece that we're using, for example, like the phonics piece, those we're pulling from where we can from the federal programs.
So altogether, we're looking at a total of about 176,000?
Yes, ma'am. For this first round. It'll be more. It'll be more. I mean, that's where we're supposed to put our money, right? We're supposed to put our money into supporting students and teachers. So as I told you, we're going to be putting our money into that, and especially the first year, because implementation is everything, and so we're going to put a lot of money into the coaching piece. I don't expect teachers to pick up a new thing with new kids, with a new everything, without having a lot of support with it. And so it's not only going to be support for the teachers, but support for the principals. What does it look like in the classroom? How do I support that as your administrator? For the instructional coaches, how do I go in and support the teachers and the students in this new learning? And there's a whole assessment package that comes with it. So we will be assessing for most of these on about a bi-weekly basis, so that we get benchmarks along the way, and then when we hit a 6 weeks, we're going to have a big test, and those will all be designed to give us a prognostication to how they're going to do at the end of the year. So there will be no surprises. We will know, and we will know early where we can go in and intervene and accelerate on kids. We'll know individually where each child is, so that, you know, if Dora is an advanced kid, I'm not looking to see just did Dora pass, but I want to make sure did Dora not drop. Dora needs to stay advanced. So that is what these pieces are also going to give us, is that ability to assess kids regularly on the small pieces of what we taught. So we're not just giving them a state test as a state test as a state test. No, we're going to give them, this curriculum aligns to that at the end. So all the pieces that we're testing going through will align to that final turnout. Yes, ma'am.
Good questions. Does anyone else have any other questions about this item? And if not, ready to go. Perfect. If not, can I get a motion?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the recommended quotes for instructional materials and implementation coaching as presented.
I have a motion by Adrian Ramirez. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mari Benavides. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 9F, discussion and consider approval of a revised school calendar for the 25-26 school year.
Mr. Board President, we have our principals are here, and our Director of Human Resources is here, and they're going to come up and talk to you a little bit about the process as we looked at a whole bunch of factors and the calendar, and we asked for them to have the biggest say in this because they're the ones who work with the teachers and the kids the most, so they're going to present you some information and answer some questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you. And just whenever you're speaking, if y'all could just stand near the mic so that people can hear as well.
Good evening, board. So looking at this new calendar, there is a 35% decrease in the number of minutes for this upcoming school year. So we're moving from 77,220 minutes to 76,950 minutes. This was intentionally done. So we're reducing the daily minutes from 495 minutes to 450 minutes, keeping in mind that from 495, that was 8 hours and 15 minutes a day from pre-K all the way through 12th grade. We're moving to a 7 hour and a 30-minute day, again, from pre-K through 12th grade. Based on feedback from the district, we were informed that students were mentally fatigued by the end of the day. They were basically shut down. They did not want to take in any more information. High school had 8 periods, I believe, and so they were just done at the end of the day. Also, with the 4-week, that caused compression with instruction, limiting pacing and depth. Especially when one day was used for testing at the end of the day. So for example, kindergartners had spelling tests. They had 3 days to learn it. On that 4th day, they were getting tested. They were getting jam-packed. Returning to the 5-day instructional week, curriculum will be distributed more evenly. It would reduce the burnout and content retention. It would also provide more consistent intervention and enrichment. The majority of the instructional days, as you can see, are before the state testing days as well. So that maximizes effective learning time. Also, because our start date is so early, we have built-in breaks as well. And also with that, we have 3 days of cushion, if you will, so we don't have to make up bad weather days if they come along. Also, moving forward, we're looking at creating a committee for calendars, and so we will start looking at those as soon as December so that we can better plan for the 26-27 school year as well. And so those would be brought to you all earlier, as soon as February of 26. Going along with that would also help plan with staffing and budgeting as well, so that when we do go to job fairs, we can show them this is our calendar, this is what we're projected to potentially pay you next year. And also, going with that, the turnover rate. So our turnover rate from last year from 4.5 days was 20.1%. Currently, we are at 20.3%. So the 4-day calendar has not impacted our turnover rate as well.
The main things that I wanted to point out, the start date is the same start just because of the timing on when this calendar is coming out, but the end date. So we would be ending on the 22nd of May, and that having to go into June. The other big thing is the break in October for a lot of new teachers and returning teachers. That's a long stretch when you start, so it gives them a little bit of a break, and it's not too close to state assessments in the second semester. And the other thing, especially at the high school, that we needed was alignment with our higher education agency, which in this case is South Texas College, because of our dual credit students. So the spring breaks are aligned.
You said you were reading out community input. Is that from?
Stakeholder input.
Oh, okay.
So administrators or DEIC committee.
Okay. And you said y'all are gonna form a committee for calendars. Isn't that what DEIC already does, or?
So we haven't ever created it within that committee. It's been presented to the committee. So we're gonna create a committee to create the calendar.
Okay.
If I may, the plan is to have representation from each of the campuses, from, of course, some of the central office folks, but also to have, students and parents on it as well, and in the creation, so that when we're bringing you options, they're options that you had an opportunity to help create. So the voice isn't just in, I pick A, B, or C, but I had some opportunity to help with the creation of it. So we can look at the time of day. We can look at the length of the year. We can look at when are there good opportunities to have breaks. For example, you can see that, the Monday after Super Bowl is a holiday because we know that we have low attendance from students and adults on that day. So why not make it a holiday if they're going to take it as a holiday anyway? We know that, for example, coming back in January, we really needed 2 days because teachers need a day to come in and get themselves ready for the new year, and then curriculum needs a day to come in and say, okay, now let's talk about what we're going to teach for the new year. We also know that, for example, we need to have a 4-day weekend at Easter because people are going to take the 4 days. And yes, that does hit that first week of testing, but if you're going to take it, let's go ahead and make it a holiday. So those are some of the things that we need to get some data to inform us when were our high absence days, and then get the feedback on the parents of this is too early for us to start, we'd like to start later. We also need to look at transportation. Do we need to stagger routes a little bit better for this? So there are a lot of things that we can do. And again, when we looked at this, we needed more instructional days up in front of the testing that is going to determine if kids were successful or not. And so that was the primary thing, is this is a tool to serve teaching and learning first and foremost. And we do believe that this will give us a good shot at that. It's not an ideal calendar, but it is what we think will serve us well. And I've asked everybody to start thinking now of what you want in that calendar for next year, and then we'll talk about wants and needs, and we'll come up with some great choices. And then the board can have that decision earlier so that we're not doing this so late in the year. So while I would love to say we're not going to start school on my birthday on July 28th, we've already got these vendors coming in. We've already made plans, and so we really can't knock that back a week. So we said if we start early, we can give you a break in October. And we also checked, and that's going to be, not a home game on that day. We're trying to make it work for just about everybody, and we're not going to make everybody happy, but we hope that what we've got here is something that's going to serve us well.
So I do want to inquire about the week of October the 6th through the 10th. What was the main rationale in selecting that week, other than football has an away game? Is that correct?
So we had originally looked at the week after that, right? Because we have a federal holiday for Indigenous Peoples Day, Columbus Day, and that would have been a great thing. But we have very few Fridays in town that are a home game, which is not just football. That's band, that's cheerleading, that's ROTC, that's everybody. That's this community. And if we took that week off, the 17th is a home game. And it was like, we only have a few of those. We only have a few of those left. What if we moved it up the week before? Because on the 3rd, we play at Zapata County, so that's a long away game. That would give everybody, oh my gosh, I'm not getting home 2.5 hours after the game, and then I gotta be at school on a Monday. You get a bit of a break. And then that game on the 10th is up in Bandera, so that's another away game. So if you wanna go, you're not having to leave school early. You can go to the game, and it's not gonna take kids out of school. So we could, if the board wants to give the 13th off, you can give the 13th off as well. We've got 3 cushion days that you can do. It was just one of those, I don't want to get crazy with giving days off, but at the same time, I know if I'm asking teachers to come in and start on July, and there's no significant break except 1 day in September, and then here comes October, and now I'm, more than a marking period into it, I need a break. I need a break. I need to give the teachers a chance to catch their breath. And hopefully Coach De Leon will let the coaches catch their breath for a day or 2 on that week off. At least sleep in a little late, Coach. But that was, again, that's a suggestion. The calendar is up for board approval, so if you want changes made, we can certainly make changes for whatever everybody wants. This is, again, there are some things that have to drive it, some needs, but there are rooms for wants, and this was a want, right? As much as it's a need to take a break, it's a want to put it right there. If you have a suggestion otherwise, we can certainly do that.
So I like the idea of the break, definitely. I think we're all, by that time we begin to get a little sluggish, especially since we're starting quite early. But I think my only thing that I'm concerned about with October the 6th through the 10th is, while we're considering football, are we looking at other extracurricular activities as well, like volleyball or band? Make sure that they don't have big competitions during that time?
He is here if he wants to speak up.
So the schedules are Tuesdays and Fridays, so it doesn't matter which, that's all year long. With all of our competitions, it's Tuesdays and Fridays all year long. So it didn't matter which week, they don't have a dead week. They don't have a dead week. They might have a bye day within a week, but those are far and slim. And but it's never the week, like where they're going to be off of a Tuesday and Thursday. So when we looked at that, it wasn't going to really impact anybody. It was going to affect them either way. And then as far as it being October, we didn't want to have a break too early because there's a lot of work to be done and we need to hit the ground running. And of course, like Dr. Spore said, the training and the support, but then thinking about teachers. You know, we are going to be learning and using new resources, and then our brand new teachers, you know, we've all been there, deer in headlights, and so that gives them a little bit of a breather.
So I'd just like to thank y'all for getting aligned with the college. The challenge that we ran into was we were still enrolled, or they were still having school here, but yet their summer 1 courses started. So 1 absent in summer school is equivalent to 3 days. So that you can only miss 2 days and drop. So thank y'all so much for aligning that as well. We have, we do have an employee and employees who work adjunct instructors and also secretaries. They're able now to get a week off of rest, where last year we were off of school district, but then they still had to work both weeks.
And that was
So
one of the things that we were
thank y'all so
considered
much.
when, you know, when there was that revision and
Thank y'all.
looking
The
at
college
everything.
will be happy now. Nobody can be absent summer.
Like you said, that's important to finish as early as we are because, you know, kids are starting school that first week of June, and so this way they would get a break. And you would get to have, you know, graduation the Friday Memorial Day weekend, which hopefully would help out-of-town guests, you know, that most folks can make it out for a long weekend for graduation.
I'd like to hear some feedback from TFE and from the middle, elementary and.
I think for our campus, you know, considering everything that's going to change with Sharon Wells and with 95%, I've been fortunate enough to experience both programs. So I know how intensive it can be, and the fact that if we don't have enough days, enough time to plan and get all of these materials in order, it becomes overwhelming to our teachers. And at that point, it's not really going to matter if they have a 4-day week because they're always going to feel like they're working. Or, you know, if they have that 3-day weekend, they're going to continue to work because they're going to try to figure out how to fit it in.
Yep.
So I think also just even from the assessment piece, it gives us more time to observe how our kids are doing and sort of reverse course if we have to in a different direction. So I think for us, for our teachers, with a 4-day week, we think we're doing best, but honestly, we might actually create more of a problem with all of our new resources because our teachers may feel like they can't catch up. And if teachers aren't happy or if they're overwhelmed, then our kids aren't happy. So I think, you know, ultimately we have to think about how our kids feel.
Thank you.
For us, I think it's the starting and end times, or really the end times, because 4:20 was long for our kids. Still having lunch at 11 o'clock, but not leaving till 4:20. The third graders were starving. Also tutorials right after school. You know, we wouldn't start till 4:30 and then ending at 5:30, which was a longer day for the students and the teachers. And then if we had any meetings and stuff after that for the teachers, it would, you know, start later, 4:30, 5:30, you know, taking time away from them. So the end times, I feel, will be beneficial for us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the 4-day calendar, let's say a student goes out for dentist appointment or doctor's appointment, that's already 3 days, maybe, you know, 3.5. And like Mr. Lin was saying, when they take unit assessments, that's a day. So how many days of instruction are you really getting? You're getting 3, hopefully, right? So looking at this calendar, one of the sticking points that we're looking at was the breaks that the teachers and the students get you know, it gives them time to regroup, and especially with the training, with the new stuff that's coming in, it's gonna give us time and our teachers time to really understand that curriculum and teach it with fidelity. So, and also the ending time, because by the end of the day, that last period, the kids are already, you know, ready to go, they're hungry, like they were saying. So this looks really good. We really like it.
So what I'm hearing is that everybody agrees that we really need to go back to our traditional 5-day week. Generally.
That makes sense.
I mean, we're not gonna make everyone happy, but at the end of the day, we're here for 2,000 some students.
Yes.
And
It's more instruction time, plus it's giving these kids a break, and the teachers both, giving them time to recuperate, look at the new curriculum that we're getting to make sure that it's done with fidelity, and plus it's just, you know, like I said, by the end of the day, not only the students but the teachers, it makes for a long day for 425.
It's a quality versus quantity
Yes.
thing.
I think it's important if we're going with the standard of being an early college, I think we need to prepare our students overall. Maybe build in some more CTE programs, get some teachers, more adjunct instructors. Maybe one day can be a mental health, I'll take your day out of the tree.
I think if they want those, they'll just take them. I think the most important part of the 5-day deal is getting back to what we're really supposed to be doing here, and that is educating the students. You know, the only thing that we did when we were growing up, you know, when we went to school, that was our job. Our job was to go to school and to learn. And so they're gonna have plenty of time after they graduate and go into their adulting life to do a lot of other things. So I think that one, because of where we're at on STARS right now, this is gonna be a great move, but we also got to be able to support the kids, get the parents involved, and this time next year, look at what we did and how well we did. So thank y'all very much for supporting us.
And I just want to let everybody know this decision isn't taken lightly. Everybody took a lot of time to get all the data and present all the data. Every board member took everything. There's in the board packet, asked questions. We got feedback from the community, and this decision isn't, whatever decision we make isn't done lightly. And for myself, and I believe we share the same opinion, all this decision is made in the best interest of the students. So students first.
And I do appreciate Dr. Spore's transparency this past couple of months. I know that it has helped some of our parents at home who help them understand why we make the decisions that we make. Thank you.
And last but not least, I do want to say, like, I actually looked at the break, and mathematically, it is right halfway through the first semester. It falls exactly 9 weeks after school begins. It is halfway through the fall semester, and I like that week that was chosen, or that right now we are planning on. It is the second week of the second 6 weeks, so teachers don't have to worry about rushing to get grades ready for progress report. And I think y'all, like, I'm sure most of you know, I'm in the teacher's role. And it's so important. Like, I could not ever imagine being able to teach my content well with 4 days. I could never imagine that. I mean, I teach 5 days and then on Saturdays, because there's so much content to learn. So I really appreciate you all as the school leaders advocating for such a big change after 2-3 years going back to 5 days.
All right, with that being said, is there any further questions on this item? And if not, can I get a motion?
So moved, sir.
I have a motion by Marco Benavides to approve. Sorry. And I write down the names so I don't mess up, and I messed up. I have a motion made by Marco Reyes to approve the revised 25-26 school calendar as presented. Do I have a second?
I second.
And I have a second by Adrian Ramirez. All in favor? Unanimous. Motion passes. Moving on to item 10, TASB policy update 125 legal and local policies.
Mr. Board President, you have in your packet the updates that TASB's legal division gives us. These are regular updates to board policy. If anybody has any questions, we can answer them, but these are done statewide, so this is not a specific to Pearsall. So that's why these are legal. If we want to change any local policies, those are what we are asking for you to give that board approval to. So you can see in your handouts, you'll see where it says that this is DBAA local and DBD local, BDF local, EI local, FDE local, and again, those have just some verbiage changes. We will have more policy changes that will come to us after we get our all of our feedback from the new legislative session.
And these are reviewed by legal, so.
Yes, sir.
Are we approving all of them together?
Yes,
Okay.
and there's also a sample motion in the board packet as well. Do I have any questions on?
The only thing I have is on terms and duties. We're not actually striking out 1 year, we're just adding, correct? Simply the same statement.
What policy?
Terms and duties. 76 on.
Okay, let me read it. Are you ready?
Yes, go ahead.
I move that the,
What, just a
Wait,
second?
No, I thought you were gonna read this. No, it's terms and duties. It says board officers shall serve for a term of 1 year, and it's got struck out, and it says 1 year in blue. So we're not actually striking out. We're just actually adding, right, or no change. Which is page.
still the same thing.
Right.
There's no
That's what I'm saying.
change.
We're not doing
No.
anything that should have been, differentiated there.
No.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir. Can I get a motion?
I move that the board add revise or delete local policies as offered by TASB Policy Service and according to the instruction sheet for TASB localized policy manual update 125 with the following changes. BDAA local, replace policy. BDB, replace policy. BDF, add policy. EI, replace policy. FDE, local, replace policy. FEC local, no policy enclosed. And FFAC, again, no policy enclosed on that.
Have a motion by Marco Reyes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Diana Hughes. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to item 11, superintendent reports and updates.
Good evening. I'm not going to give y'all a big report because we just did that last week. I did just have a couple of things of interest. First up, we can see our picture with our new board. This was taken last week. We swore in Dora Mata Rodriguez as our newest board member. We did that on Tuesday night, and Wednesday we headed to San Antonio for the Summer Leadership Institute, and that is with the Texas Association of School Boards. So that's the state conference for school boards. They're having one next week up in the Dallas area, but this was for anybody in the state could come to this, so there were thousands of people there, I would say. Lots of great learning. 2,000 folks there. All of our board was there, so we were 100% represented, which was really nice to see. I think I can speak for all of us. We got to see some really great sessions. We've shared the slides with central office folks and with the principals. Got to hear some neat things that are going on across the state and right down the road. And so we've decided we're going to be presenting soon on some of the great things that we're doing here in Pearsall as well. Some things of note. So legislative updates, a lot of you have already seen this in the news. So House Bill 2 was passed and the governor signed it. The big thing that everybody is wanting to hear about is teacher raises, right? Teacher raises. And they put them into two categories. They put them into small district and big district. And we are small district because we're under 5,000 students. So for teachers with 3 to 4 years of experience, they're going to get a $4,000 raise. For teachers with 5+ years, that's $8,000. I guess we don't have any teachers in here who are just like absolutely going. I mean, when was the last time we were able to give that substantial a raise to our employees, and especially to value the folks who stay in the profession for 5 years or more? That's huge. Now, there are other pieces in that bill. There is some additional funding for special education. So for now, we don't have the kind of funding that we know we need for special education. So now it's going to be based on intensity of services. Some students get more services from more specialists, and that requires greater spending. So now that's going to be reflected. There's also money in there for more pre-K. There's money in there for school safety. There's an awful lot of money going into very specific little pieces. We're going to get a little bit of money for non-teaching professionals, so that will be nurses and counselors. And so that allows us at the local level then to put our money into helping out our hourly employees. So that's one thing I told the board when I'm looking at it, and we're going to budget workshops now because we still don't have this information from the state, right? We still do not know exactly how this is going to impact us. They're running models now so that we'll know. So what does that mean for us? How much do we have? And then we're going to look at leveling up for all employees, because we've got the gift for leveling up teachers. Now we can pour into leveling up for our hourly employees, because I think every principal here can tell you, and we've got some other employees here, we've got teaching assistants who serve as a teacher. They really do. They pull a very heavy weight, and so we want to make sure that we are the employer of choice, and they're not saying I can make more money if I go work for Walmart or HEB. I can get on their ladder and make more. We want to say, no, stay with us, because they have to have certification. They do get a certification to be a classroom teaching assistant. So we're excited about the opportunities this gives us to reward employees. There's another big one, the HB 33, it's titled the Uvalde Strong Act, and it's going to provide for additional reviews, and that'll be reviews of all of our operating procedures, of our facilities. Additional trainings will be given, not only for teachers and folks, but for our security officers. Tools, we'll have breaching tool. We're going to have all required stuff that we're going to have at each of the campuses, different preparedness that we will have to have, and then some support from the state. So next week we will have our chief of police and our district security officer will be headed to San Marcos for the state security conference, and they will get the latest on all of the regulations coming down. We know next year we will be having our big state vulnerability threat assessment, where they will come in with a fine-tooth comb to see how prepared we are for any of these emergencies. There's also some changes in House Bill 6 on student discipline. It changed up DAEP and ISS. It took off some of the regulations for minimum time in ISS, or maximum time in ISS. So that's going to be aligned to some of the changes that we're making locally to ensure that kids do receive a consequence, however, that it is not going to be something that's going to negatively impact them academically, that they're still going to get the supports academically, behaviorally, and for students who are receiving support services as well. And then another big one, HB 1481, I'll have everybody know, is the governor, not the superintendent, saying no cell phones, okay? So the rule is no cell phones on school property. Okay, so what does that mean? In the bus, whatever, so all the superintendents are like, oh, no, give us guidance on this. So we have a conference call with the Commissioner of Education next Thursday, and we're going to start getting some of the administrative regulations for these laws to tell us what the expectation is. The beautiful thing in Pearsall is this community is already committed to, we don't need cell phones during instructional time. So we have the yonder pouches, and that's probably what we're going to get to keep doing, and we are ahead of the game on that one. So we're following that policy. And so I'm glad to see that we've got that. So those are just a few highlights. We had a good 5 pages of just little synopsis of things. You know, when the legislature meets every 2 years, they tend to go to town, and it takes us 2 years to figure out all of the rules. So a lot of it will be coming down. We will be coming to the board probably first part of August with the student handbook that will reflect these changes, student code of conduct that will reflect these changes, and we will highlight the changes for the community and for the board as well. So that is my big update from between last Tuesday and today. We got a lot of new learning going on. Any questions?
No, ma'am. Just thank you for all the work you've been doing since you've got here.
It's been very rewarding. Thank you.
So can I add 2 things?
Absolutely.
I know that Dr. Sport talked about House Bill 6, and this was my favorite part of House Bill 6. It says allows a policy on parental involvement that would shorten DAP or expulsion with a behavior contract. So the parents would get involved, and that would help them. And then again, like Dr. Sport mentioned, not only prohibiting students from using a cell phone during the school day, but that also includes their smartwatches.
Yes, ma'am. So parents are going to be they're going to be involved a little bit differently now, and that is by design from the legislature, from everything discipline to library books. We'll be bringing new policy on library collections as well. So look for a lot of new things to come down the pike here for this school year.
Awesome. Thank you for that update. Does anyone else have any other questions? All right. If there are no further questions, we will move on to item 12, closed session. It is 8:16 p.m. and this board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, discuss and consider the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, and dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. Board of Trustees returns to open session at 9:29 PM. We have item 13A, the board may take appropriate action regarding the appointment, evaluation, employment, reassignment, duties, discipline of a dismissal of an employee. Do we have any motions? Do we have any motions?
Okay. I move to grant the parents Level 3 appeal, and I further move that the board order the administration to reinstate the student to the dance team.
I have a motion by Adrian Ramirez. Do I have a second? With no second, the motion dies. And if there's any other motions on the table, we can do that as well.
I move to deny the parents Level 3 appeal and uphold the administration's decision at Level 2.
I have a motion by Lionel Gondeta. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Marco Reyes. All in favor? And keep your hands up just so I can, all in favor is Diana Hughes, Dora Mata Rodriguez, Lionel Gondeta, Matthew Aguilar, Marco Reyes, Mari Benavides. All opposed? Adrian Ramirez, opposed. Motion passes to deny the Level 3 appeal and uphold the administration decision at Level 2. If there's no further business in the meeting, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I so move, sir.
I have a motion to adjourn,
I second.
second by Adrian Ramirez. All in favor? Okay, motion passes. The time is now 9:32 PM and the board will now adjourn.